Hey, and welcome to the Weed Out, where we talk about the bullshit happening in our backyard and weed it out. I'm Spencer Fox Peterson with co-host Akil Vicks.
What up?
This week we are going to be discussing Akil's most recent piece for inthesetimes.com. Do you want to just, since it's your article, I should let you introduce it and kind of set the stage for the audience, Akil. So take it away.
So what I was really trying to do was make sure that Kamala Harris doesn't pick Josh Shapiro. No, what I really wanted to do was talk about the Democratic Party's relationship with public education, and look at that through the potential names on Kamala Harris's short list for vice president. And doing that, I ended up focusing mainly on Josh Shapiro, mostly because he seems to be at the top of the list. At times, it seems like he's neck and neck with Tim Walz. And it's interesting. Shapiro's interesting because up until his election in 2022, he didn't really say a lot about the school voucher issue. He didn't really talk a lot about privatization and that kind of thing. But when he was running for governor in 2022, in the famed 2022 midterms, all of a sudden he starts suggesting, dropping nuggets and hints that, like, I think charters are a viable way to help kids in underserved districts. And so I talked a little bit basically about why vouchers are a scam, why vouchers are designed to drain money from public education. Even when, someone like Shapiro likes to pretend that you can do both, that you can fully fund schools. And to his credit, he has put a lot of money into public schools in Pennsylvania, and a lot of money into programs for, disabled kids with special needs. Unequivocally good things in terms of funding public schools. Not enough. There's still, Pennsylvania is still legally underfunding their public schools, according to a court case that ruled on the equitable funding within the state for public schools. So they are still underfunding, but Shapiro has been good on actually funding the schools, while also trying to get these charter school vouchers in the back door. And from a bird's eye view, right? So like in Philadelphia, or not Philly, but Pennsylvania, Philly being where I am originally from, and where a lot of progressive energy is in Pennsylvania in the moment. But there's a lot of controversy over this. But from a zoomed out perspective, when you look at the Democratic Party over the past several decades, and you want to know why the party has kind of been hollow, why the party has not been able to harness any sort of productive electoral energy, except for when Republicans almost kill everybody. That's the only time you see people excited about Democrats, is when Republicans almost lead us to complete and total catastrophe. Then everyone's like, oh, save us with brunch. But other than that, the Democrats have kind of gone all in on this neoliberal idea about public-private partnerships, harnessing the free market to provide the public good at a profit. Which, if you look at the history of economic actions and theory, those two things aren't very compatible: profit and the public good.
Right.
So, but the Democrats have kind of, really, really been into the strategy for quite a while now. I mean, you can argue since Carter, but Clinton is the name everyone, recognizes as the point man for the neoliberal turn. But this is this public partner private public-private partnership love affair is what pushed the Democratic Party to be into the charter school movement, and make that like a principal part of their, quote unquote, education reform. And meanwhile, we have this thing that works pretty well. It's called public schools. We've been underfunding them. They've suffered from, capital flight in poor neighborhoods. They've suffered from, uh, policies and laws that go back to the massive resistance movement that was a backlash to Brown v. Board of Education. And they've been under attack for as long as, pretty much as long as there's been Black people in public schools have been under attack. For a variety of different reasons. There are people who are genuine ideologues, libertarians who don't believe in the public good. There are, racists who very much don't like the idea of, people coming together in a public setting and being around each other and forming bonds and learning together. And then there are, I think, I guess you could call them the long view capitalists who want an educated populace that they don't have to train for menial labor, but they don't want them to be too educated so that they agitate for, better working conditions and, better options in the market and less corporate control over our everyday life. So you've got like a mixture of different motivations that all kind of swirl together and they create this anti-public school.
The last one you mentioned, that last type, that's like Rockefeller, right? Like that was definitely his mantra. Like people like Rockefeller.
Yeah, I mean, like, because we had to, to be a little honest about it. Like a lot of these guys were major players in getting public education off the ground. Because much in the same way they got police off the ground, they saw it as offloading one of the principal costs to their businesses onto the state, right? So I don't have to pay security to break up. I don't have to pay the Pinkertons to break up a strike anymore. The cops can do it. I don't have to spend the money to train a bunch of street urchins to read the signs in my factory. The public school will do it. And that arrangement, worked well enough. And then education got better, things got better, technology got better. And then you see, the first generation of like mass working people, their kids going to college. And out of that era, you get, campus protests and, fears of Marxism, taking over the schools.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it was some chief of staff or somebody in the Nixon administration or worked in the Nixon, but also the Reagan. One of those fucking conservative ghouls from the 70s said, Mr. President, we're in danger of a educated proletariat. And that's when they started fucking making, the current college debt system that we have now. To put us back in the hole, because we were getting the proletariat was getting a little too big for its britches, 40, 50 years after the New Deal, basically.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure that was Reagan, and it might have been when he was governor, because that's when he
but it was one of those
over the California state college system.
Right. And it's just it was one of those ghouls. It's like not Roger Stone, but like, one of those people. It's like, are you really been fucking us over for 25, 30 years? Like, God damn it. Like, that Roger Stone has been a player for what, 50 years? Since Nixon. So it's like, Jesus Christ.
Fucking Batman villains. They're literally Batman villains. It's kind of wild.
And that's the ones we know about. Anyway, so back to the topic at hand. Yeah, voucher schools, and this, I know we're talking about Pennsylvania, but this is really a problem in a lot of Democrat stronghold states. Massachusetts, where we have all very similar problems to what Pennsylvania has. Some. I'm sure they're not dealing well down there with their unhoused population and immigrant or asylum seeking people. and I know Shapiro's had some not great takes on student protests,
Yeah,
Palestinians. Um,
yeah.
we
Well,
can get into
but
that
but
later, but yeah,
but
it's
Spencer, he said
relatable,
Netanyahu was bad. He said Netanyahu was
right?
bad. So
Okay, cool.
can you really be mad at him
Is that hard?
first?
That's like the
He's got
easiest
the
thing. That's the easiest thing to do is blame Netanyahu. Like I also blame Netanyahu. Cool, we agree on one fact. He's a piece of shit. All right, next.
yeah,
I got like 50 more pieces of shit I can think of right off the top of my just individuals I can think of. John Kirby, Matt Miller,
yeah,
Joe Biden. I don't know, Jill Biden. I
yeah.
don't know, fuck every single one of these motherfuckers. Kamala
Right.
Harris, like
Well, I mean, it's just it's a it's something that you say for people who don't have never like bothered to look into it because
yeah.
like Netanyahu's a terrible person. So is every other person in Likud, right?
Right.
Like
Well, and
people
just yeah.
like
No, sorry.
Netanyahu is a moderate compared to some of the people
Right.
in
Well,
the
he's like
Knesset.
Joe Biden. He's like Joe Biden, as far as racism goes.
Well, he can make a full sentence, so I don't know. I don't want to compare him.
Well,
To
I'm just saying
Joe
Joe
Biden.
Biden is prime. Like, like
Yeah.
could like like you've seen the speeches with Joe Biden talking about Muslims and Arabs, and it's just like conflating the two, saying there's extremists, and it's hard to tell them apart. Like,
Yeah,
Hamas, like what's the difference between him and Netanyahu? Like it's the same bullshit. And oh god, they make my skin crawl. Yeah, so Josh Shapiro, just for those playing at home, I'm sure some of you have heard about this man, but the most recent thing he said that was very disturbing was regards to anti-genocide protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters. And you mentioned it here in the article. He compared them to the KKK. So, yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, it ain't great, Bob. I don't know what to say. I know there's a backlash. There's this backlash to the backlash, right? So progressive groups and like a lot of people pointed out the the campus peace protest stuff, rightfully so. But there was also a lot of pushback on the voucher issue, a lot, especially local pushback, and immediately what you saw was this coordinated backlash to the backlash, where you've got a bunch of people saying like, oh, the left opposes the only Jewish candidate on the VP list.
Oh, yeah.
Wonder why. Forgetting that the left was like in the bag for Bernie Sanders and currently in the bag for Jill Stein. Some of them are.
And there's another Pritzker is another possible.
And Pritzker is also a billionaire. I think the left would have been fine, would have been a little bit better with a little less antagonistic to Pritzker, only because Pritzker is not he's polite, he's just not pretending. Like what you're getting. He's a he's a gregarious husky billionaire guy from the Midwest that could play well with certain people. And if you are like looking at it cynically from an electoral politics standpoint, then you can understand the choice of someone like Pritzker. The thing with Shapiro is just that there doesn't seem to be over the other candidates, right? So like I think a lot of people have coalesced around Tim Walz, who's a former educator, former union member, and not he's not like a avowed socialist by any means, right? Like he's not looking to end capitalism by any means. He's got some bona fides that let make you believe that he could have some appeal to the center and maybe even some more like never Trump Republicans. But also a lot of people on the left seem to like him. They like that he's a former union guy. He's strong on public education. He's strong on a lot of workers' rights stuff. So like you've got that pick there. you got a swing state guy who seems to enjoy broad support across the party, but there seems to be this effort to push Shapiro in there for whatever. I'm not going to speculate on why there's a strong push for Shapiro, but some of the defenses of Shapiro have been a little interesting, right? And I'm not sure what to make of them. Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. I don't know how many people know about the Young Turks and Cenk Uygur. They were one of the first kind of like bigger, leftist podcasting platforms. One of the first, they kind of got their start around the time of like the Air America castoffs. And they were big Bernie guys. They were a pretty big voice in the left. They've gone a little bit reactionary recently, but anyway, Cenk Uygur puts out a new
I want to jump in real quick. I never heard of them at all, right?
Yeah.
So I was out, but they are. I have since learned that they are popular. I didn't get to know who they were probably around their heel turn at 2020. When 2020 is when things got fucking weird with them, and then the LA mayor and the LA mayor race got weird too, where they were saying weird shit about the unhoused, and just like I was just like, what the fuck? So like around 2020, they started, from what I understood, because I remember like somebody sent me a clip and I was like, wait, these guys are like the progressive. I was like, nah, these people freak me out. But they've been around for like 10 years at that point.
They've been around. I mean, they were one, like, I'm all cards on the table. They were like one of the first, shows that got me into politics. I'm sitting down in a cubicle office in 2018, and they're criticizing, Clinton, and they're saying the Democratic Party sucks. It's like, oh, okay, maybe this makes sense.
I think they're convenient. I think because it's all relative, like the Democratic establishment and the media have kind of shifted right. So I think that they are kind of moving with them in their wake. And then, it's kind of like how AOC is the controlled opposition. The Squad is the relative controlled opposition in the Democratic caucus. Same deal with this media entity, but at the end of the day, like, they just want to get the clicks too. Like, they're in the capitalist media ecosystem. So I think that's ultimately like why they're gonna always disappoint.
I haven't looked into this since I heard it. It was a while ago, but if I remember correctly, there's some scuttlebutt, and this is all alleged, but there's some scuttlebutt that they got a major, because they were listener supported, and they do ads here and there, but they were mostly a listener supported outfit. But they got a major donation from some local real estate interests right around 2020. So right around that time when they started, talking about the, getting real gross and weird about homeless, getting real weird about abolition and cops and things like that. I don't know what precipitated their whole turf turn. Don't know where that came from, but that's been something they've kind of been into lately.
Well, it's clear to me these people are capitalists, and I think capitalism just does this to your brain. Like, no matter what, like it's gonna, even no matter how good you are at the start, it's gonna get its fangs into your brainstem and make you do very strange things. And that's the deal with, I think, all these people that are villains. I like have pity for the billionaire class. Like, you guys are miserable. Like, that's a miserable existence, just collecting and hoarding. And these politicians, like, what a miserable fucking existence some of these politicians must live. Like, you're fucking weird. It's weird.
The word of 2024, weird.
Dude, I mean, back to my quick thought for everybody at home. The Weed Out does not do electoralism scolding in any way. Please vote. Vote on your conscience, your context. Don't let anybody shame you. Don't let anybody bully you. But remember, vote local, please, more than anything. But yeah, I mean, let's have a discussion. That vote is in like 3 months. Let's discuss the pros and cons of all these fuckers. And also remember that voting will not save us. It's just another tool. Let's not like get precious about it. And
Yeah.
because we save us, and I know it's scary. I wish we could just pull a lever and that's it. But and it's okay to be scared. I'm fucking always frightened of this government, so I feel like I'm always running a low grade fever about it. So, welcome to my hell. And anyways, I'm not alone. There's lots of people that care deeply and are doing great work. So shout out to all those people. You know who you are, and you know it's. I kind of got off track there, so I'll admit that. But it's hard. And you mentioned the weird stuff, and it's like finally some good messaging, cool. But it's like I don't even want to associate with the Democrats anymore because of this whole, naked
Yeah.
genocide. Like I like guys, there's nothing to excuse not one of you. Like there's nothing to excuse you. This is crazy. Like this is crazy that we're watching this on our phones and like you're like lying to us. Like that is very
Yeah.
disturbing. And so that's why I don't think I'm ever cast a ballot for Democrat again personally. But again, like let's have this discussion. And they finally come up with this whole weird thing. And it's like, yeah, guys, fascists do not their ego needs to be legitimized. So if you're like, let's sit down and debate, you're legitimizing their position, and that's what they want. They want to walk around and puff their chest. Fucking deflate their chest, put them back in their corner, and put them in timeout. Like, no, we don't negotiate with you. Like, fuck Joe Biden for reaching across the aisle all this time. Like, no, you should have fucking just rammed some shit through. That's what they would do. Play dirt. They don't know what to do. Punch a fascist in the mouth, rhetorically or literally. Like, watch them fold. Like that boxer quit the boxing match because she got punched too hard. And it turns out everybody, the boxer was a cop. Her day job was a cop in Italy. So
Yeah.
just saying,
Yeah.
punch a fascist in the mouth. They will literally just quit. They will quit. They will quit in the biggest stage. They will go to an Olympic event and be shocked that they got punched in the face. Like you're doing the sport where you punch each other.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry, that's my sidebar.
Well,
So they finally get this right, but it's just like, but don't let the liberals off the hook. Like they want to be buddies with these guys for some reason. I don't know. They are fucking weird. So why are you negotiating with them?
It's just, it's well, for one thing, for the weird thing, for one thing, right? It's something that they could only do now without Joe Biden in the race, because you can't go around saying the other party's full of weirdos when you're literally doing a weekend at Bernie's, right? Like you can't like say that, like you can't be like, oh man, JD Vance is so weird. Meanwhile, here's this dead guy. Can you vote for him for president? Like you know. So now that they've escaped that, they've replaced the Crypt Keeper with the cool fun wine mom, and they've also it kind of like baited the Republicans into leaning in to the weird Christian nationalist, just weird, the weird part of their party, right? Because JD Vance was a pick for the weirdos in the party, and that was a pick that the Republicans made thinking that, okay, we've got this in the bag. Joe Biden is, literally dead man walking. We can just flip the bat, slow walk around the bases here. So they have this opening, but to if we can bring it back full circle, that's why considering Shapiro is such a weird attempt at a self goal here, because there's a decent amount of leftist energy right now, and you can say that it's misplaced, you can say that it's foolish, but there's a decent amount of leftist energy right now to support, to just to finally do what the liberals have wanted us to do for so long, just to get on board and get on this mass big tent Democratic train ride just to stuff it to Trump and the Republicans one time. And there is a good amount of energy for that, which would be, it would be complemented by picking someone like Tim Walz or picking someone like Bashir, right? These are guys who you're not super progressives. It's not like you're picking Jamal Bowman or Cornel West. No, of course not. But they have good political.
By the way, those are somehow pipe dreams. Like leftism doesn't get. You have to be a capitalist. There is no leftist politician in those high seats.
Sure.
So we're willing to even settle for this. Not we. I mean, I won't speak for anybody. You're saying why go with the guy that's definitely going to alienate. You're not going to get all those people you would have got if you brought in a fresh, brand new face for the Democratic Party. But you could get some of them back, some of the quote unquote pragmatic ones, or whatever the fucking the hook word they're using to appeal to the people that want to feel like they're smart,
Right.
And I think we just need to talk up until then. Personally, I have a hard time advocating for a cop, so you're not going to really ever hear me wax poetic about pretty much any Democrat, because it seems like all they do is promote AGs. Honestly,
it is. It's true. Shapiro was an AG.
Right, exactly. No, dude, all the people. I mean, Joe Biden's a throwback. That's most of these people that get to these. Wasn't Amy Klobuchar an AG? For example, dude, and Maura Healey, same deal. It's never ending. It's never fucking ending. Stop promoting cops. Stop promoting cops. Stop promoting cops. Stop promoting cops.
But if they don't do that, then the Republicans will say they're soft on crime.
I don't give a fuck.
They do it anyway. They don't. The Republicans don't give a shit.
And the Republicans don't have to make sense. The funny thing is, the Republicans love glazing military and cops, but they really don't want to fund them. It's really, they just want to pay them in hero affirmation bucks. We give you basically
and toys.
And toys. Yeah, affirmation. We're gonna make you look really cool. And obviously you can rape, pillage, steal, bribe, extort, do all that stuff. Do your side untaxable stuff.
Here's a whole fully loaded MRAP, so you can patrol your 3,000 population town in central PA. Here's your military, here's your paratrooper gift set.
That can't be serviced because it's specialty service and nobody there is qualified.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I fucking hate it here.
That's what the cops get.
So just the Democrats can't seem to not do this. This is like Hillary Clinton picking Tim Kaine, it's the same thing. It's you're not going to convince me for a million reasons, but there's so many people. It's you guys will literally just let a victory slide away. It's crazy.
So the thing that
Trump is a weak candidate.
He's a super weak candidate. He's lost it, man. He does not have it anymore. He does not have it anymore.
Dude, and his back is against the wall in so many legal avenues and financial avenues. Dude, this is the weakest candidate ever. You're building him up to this boogeyman. It's you should knockout blow this motherfucker and that party. What are you waiting for?
The thing
you become the conservative party.
The thing gives me a little bit of hope, and it's very much a tragic sense of hope, is that I don't think that Kamala Harris has any moral center. I don't think she has a commitment to neoliberalism. I don't think she has a commitment to, sure, she doesn't have a commitment to progressivism. Like they just kind of, it's been leaking out that like she's already walking back her commitments to jobs guarantees and Medicare for all, like that. None of obviously none of that was never going to pass. Fracking, right? She's going to go back on obviously none of that was going to pass. But I also don't think she's an ideologue for neoliberalism either, to the point where like the fact that she hasn't, that it's been dragged this long. That Shapiro, this Shapiro verse is seemingly between Shapiro and Walz. I think, honestly, I think Bashir would be the best, Bashir in Kentucky, except for the fact that they don't want to lose that governor, that governor seat in Kentucky. So I don't know if they would like let him. Yeah. But in terms of
you're not going to get another Democrat.
Yeah. So I think I think the fact that it's taken this long for her to name one means that it's not an automatic like, okay, let's just piss off the fucking left. Let's do, the thing that signals that we're going to be, in business. So that's the thing with Josh Shapiro, right? I kind of got sidetracked a while ago, but that article from Jen Guger defending Shapiro tried to, was making the case that, as an AG, he went after, exploitative lending practices. He took on Catholic priests in the Philadelphia or the PA Archdiocese, and he did, like he did things that you would want a left of center Democrat to do, right? Like you're not expecting the world, but there's some bare minimum things that you're hoping that their commitment to left of center progressive politics would move them to do. And like I said, and I mentioned it before, he has put a decent amount of money into the state's public schools. The flip side of that is that he has this background from the main line in Philadelphia. I don't know if you know about the main line. That's basically where Philly stashes its billionaires. It's either the main line or Southern Jersey. Because there's a lot of space in Jersey. No one goes to Jersey. But he's got, he comes from the main line. He comes from a very well-off sector of the area, not Philadelphia proper, but just outside of Philadelphia. And he's got a lot of friends who are billionaires, right? So I talked to you before about Joel Greenberg, not that Joel Greenberg from Florida. Not crypto Joel Greenberg, a very different Joel Greenberg. But this guy Joel Greenberg, who's been a major donor to Shapiro, he was on Shapiro's transition team when he first won the governorship in PA. This guy Joel Greenberg co-founded this group, Susquehanna International, which is a Wall Street, trading firm. They're a market maker, right? So they basically help companies get into the market, make a bunch of money, and distribute the proceeds. One such company that they did this for, Truth Social, for Donald Trump. The other major co-founder of this group is a Republican donor named Jeffrey Yass, another Philadelphia billionaire. And this guy has been donating to Republicans more and more and more, but he's mostly a single issue, activist in this space. He wants to privatize schools, right? That's his goal. He is identified as a libertarian. He does not believe in the public good. He does not believe that education is a public right and the public good that everyone needs. He funded. So the thing about Shapiro and PA, right? And there's a lot. That's another thing that a lot of people will, when they're defending Shapiro, they'll say like, well, he ran on vouchers and he won his race by, I think, like 15 points. So obviously that's popular. What they don't mention is that the guy he was running against, Doug Mastriano, was an absolute lunatic, whose position on public education was way more extreme. So like if it's between the guy who wants to completely defund public education and give everyone $5,000 and say, good luck, I hope you can find a school for your kid. And the guy who wants to like do a means tested tax credit based voucher program for low income and vulnerable students, you know, obviously if those are your only two candidates, you're going to pick the more moderate one.
Well,
but
this is how the Overton window moves.
This is how the Overton window. But honestly, it's not even moving, because this is where the Democratic Party had been historically. They haven't been supportive of vouchers per se, because vouchers have the whole massive resistance back in the 60s when, you know, white people were trying to prevent integration. That's where vouchers come from. So Democrats haven't been so you know, ready to accept straight up vouchers, but they have been ready to accept you know, the charter school movement was the big thing. And then now they have these tax credit scholarships, which, you know, they try to sell them as not directly taking money from public schools. You know, a voucher is money that would have gone to a public school that's now going to a private school. It's following the kid from the public to the private. The tax credit scholarship is private citizens donating money for scholarship programs to a third independent party scholarship organization. And that organization is the one that provides scholarships to private schools. But they're doing this at a huge tax write-off. They're getting a huge tax credit. I think in PA, it's like 75% of your donation. Other states have gone as far as 100%. This, if you've heard anything about Arizona's budget crisis, this is what did it to Arizona. They made their tax credit scholarship program universal. There's anyone could take advantage of it, and they took the cap off of the full you know, tax credit for donations. As a result, a lot of rich people basically pay their taxes in taking money away from the public good and funneling it into private schools. And, you know, Jay-Z came to Philly to push vouchers, working with Jeffrey Yass. You know, so there's your Black Republicans coming in, you know, to save the day for America's, you know, underserved Black youth. And the thing is, a lot of people, you know, if you just say like, here's money where we can give it to kids, we can give it to families, and we can take them out of bad schools, failing schools, schools that are in dangerous neighborhoods, that are falling apart. We can take those kids out of those conditions and put them in good schools where there's smaller class sizes and more resources, and that sounds like a smart thing to do, but that isn't how these programs are actually working. That shouldn't be a surprise to anyone listening to this show, but in effect, what's happening is, one, most of these voucher programs are in effect a huge transfer of wealth from the poorest students to the richest students. Because what's happening is, if you are, you know, in Pennsylvania, the average scholarship amount that someone is awarded is around $2,000, right? If you have special needs, if you have learning disability or physical disability, you can get more. But the average amount, if you're just your stereotypical kid with potential trapped in the failing school, you can get $2,000 on average in these scholarship programs. There aren't any good schools where tuition costs $2,000, right?
Absolutely not.
No. And these schools are also highly selective. Okay, so, you know, they call it school choice, but parents and kids aren't doing the choosing. These private schools are doing the choosing, right? And they're going to select based on what makes their metrics look good, their graduation rate, you know, whatever. If they're trying to do some sort of homogeneous student population, you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. Some of this money is bypassing the laws and rules we have against supporting, you know, the separation of church and state. We're not supposed to be funding religious schools. Well, some of these tax credit programs can go around those laws, and so now we have public money going to fund religious schools. But then what's happening is as you start this program, you say, okay, this is just going to be for the poorest kids in an area. This is going to be for people at 150% of the poverty line, or whatever. But then over time, what you do is you start raising that number. So it's 150% of the poverty line. Now, maybe it's 200% of the poverty line, or maybe it's 300% of the poverty line. And pretty soon you get to the point where it's just a universal, credit or tax credit or scholarship that anyone can access. I think in PA, it's like 175,000 a year is what you can make before you can't get this. Which, I'm not saying that like in this economy, I'm not saying that like $140,000, $175,000 a year is like you're not Gates or Bezos or Zuckerberg, but you're probably living comfortably. And most importantly, you're probably already sending your kid to a private school. And that's just what's going on with these programs, is that parents that have already sent their kids to private school are accessing these scholarships and basically getting a discount. So $2,000 isn't enough for a poor family to afford tuition at a very expensive school, but it's a nice little discount for someone who's already sending their kid to a very expensive school. And the story out in Arizona is wild because they pretty much made it the wild, wild west. They say, okay, parents, you can apply, you can get this money, and you can do whatever you want with it. Maybe you want to set up a homeschool. Maybe you want to go to a private school or a religious school. Maybe you want to take your kids rock climbing or do ninja training or go skiing or buy a specialty waffle maker. If you can figure out a way where you're calling that educational, you can spend the money on it. And that's blown this huge hole in Arizona's budget. They're having a crisis. And that's the end result of these things. So like, the problem with Shapiro isn't so much that he is in fact like he's not Joe Lieberman, right? Like he's not a blue dog Democrat. He's not Joe Manchin, or Christian Sinema. He's not like one insult away from turning independent and like fucking over the Democrats on an important piece of legislation. He's a solid blue guy. He's got the positions he has on Israel are his positions. They're pretty much the positions that most people in Democratic Party have. So like, I'm not ever expecting that to be disqualifying, even though it should. But, that is what it is. The problem with Shapiro is that he is very much still he's still very much on the old program of the Democratic Party, where the belief is that these public-private partnerships can be constrained and controlled and made to augment the public good, when we have so much history, so much data, so much research backing up the fact that these public-private partnerships are always a Trojan horse. They're always a way to sneak privatization in the door. And once it's got a foothold, it starts to expand a little bit, expand a little bit, expand a little bit. And pretty soon you've turned the public good into a market for tradable commodities, which can be speculated, financialized, the whole 9 yards, everything that's wrong with the economy now. And so, when you're looking at criticisms of Shapiro from the left, it's not so much that, we think he's like just the worst, fake Democrat ever. It's that compared to the other choices who have been pretty damn strong on public education, who seem to realize where the energy is in the party, the energy is for protecting the public good. My partner Nora is an education journalist. You can catch her work at Jacobin. But she's done a lot of reporting on this. There's a lot of conservative energy to protect public schools, right? Like especially in a place like Texas. She wrote a really great article about the governor of Texas trying to push this voucher program, and you've got rural Republicans, people in his own party saying, no, we don't want this. High schools are the hub of these rural communities, right? Like these schools aren't just the place where you dump your kid for 8 hours where you have to clock in. It's like, it's a meeting place. It's a place of organization. It's a place to go see football on Friday nights, right? Like it's a community hub. It's a place where solidarity and people coming together and realizing their common bonds happens. And people don't want to give that up. They especially don't want to give it up so that they can, like, so the weirdos in the party can, like, look under people's dresses and in their pants to see if they should be hitting cops in the face or not. Like, so there's a good amount of energy, somewhat even bipartisan, for protecting the public good. And Shapiro is more of an old school Democrat. He's friends with these guys. This is beyond just expediency. Like, Joel Greenberg is a friend of Josh Shapiro. I presume they, like, grew up together somewhat. They grew up in the same area. Like, he is fundamentally incapable of harnessing some very valuable energy, and we know they're going to squander it, right? We know they're going to squander it. It's the Democratic Party. It's what they do. They professional energy squanderers. But at least harness it first. At least win the goddamn election before you piss everybody off, I guess, is my point. Like, can you just win the goddamn thing so then we can have our fights without having to worry about, well, not take that back, with worrying less about fascism.
Yeah, I mean, this is my time where I am a wet blanket. I feel like the fascism just is coming no matter what way we do it, because the Democrats are the ones signing off on Cop City. Like,
Yep.
they're the ones co-signing whatever Israel's doing. The IOF works with our cops work with the IOF. Our cops were like, the NYPD and LAPD were at the Olympics and, like, got special permits to carry guns at the Olympics. Like, what are we fucking doing? Like, what people, like, my brain, it's just like, what is wrong with our society? Like,
I will say I actually traveled through France this year for the first time ever, and talking with the cabbie who took us from one airport to the other. The cops in France are fucking. The cops in France make our cops look like, I don't know, less awful cops. I don't know. Cops in France are fucking wild. So I'm not surprised the NYPD's over there having a good time and being allowed to carry. Let's just say that.
yeah, it's crazy to me. It's all crazy. It's like, dude, you're in another country. Fucking have a rest. Like, chill out. You're fucking cowboy fucking weirdos. Like, all these men are they're so repressed. Anyways, so yeah, it is typical of the Democrats to even be dangling this. And my argument for everybody who's, like, getting scolded online or in person or whatever, or just feeling overwhelmed already and it's only August, just listen. We're going to discuss the ups and downs of all these people, and they deserve to be discussed. It's, put yourself on a pedestal, fuck you. Let's talk about it. And Kamala is problematic, dude. Like, I can't fuck with cops, and and
Yeah.
but
I said I don't think she believes anything. I do think she does believe. I think she does enjoy being a cop, and that's not. Yeah, that's
yeah.
very, very disconcerting. I think that's the only thing that really gave her joy, is, like, the ability to fucking put people in prison.
I think the name of this episode is going to end up be something Spencer and Akil talk VEEP. Because, like, Kamala, Selena Meyer / I don't know, somebody else on that show too. I'm so curious what the vice president's office is like. I bet it's chaotic.
Oh man, I mean, well, it's wild now because it's the vice president's office plus it's the presidential campaign. The
and
amount
is
of, like,
where is Joe Biden? Where is Joey G?
So there's a special computer that lives in the White House, and they've uploaded his all of his mannerisms and words and speeches into it. And with the power of AI, we can have a fully functional Joe Biden for at least 3 more months.
I'm surprised they haven't. I'm wondering, like he's been like MIA and like some crazy stuff has happened. You know, we're recording this on August 5th, and there's been assassinations. there's been revolts in Bangladesh. The prime minister fled. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of crazy shit. We haven't. I don't
there's
know.
a
There's an election
we're
coming up.
we're trying to coup Venezuela again. We got to do that
Are
every
we?
every
I
4
don't even
years.
know. I get so overwhelmed with all the bullshit, and I'm like, what is CIA propaganda? What isn't? Like what is going on? There's just
Yeah.
so much all at once. So maybe in 20 years we'll look back and go, oh, that was World War III, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if World War III is not gonna
I,
look the way, if World
I
War III just ends up being like a couple big cyber attacks and everyone freaks the fuck out.
I'm a big proponent of that. Informational warfare is a big part of warfare, always has been, and it's morphed with every iteration of wars over human history. And I feel like with the devices in your pocket and the information war can even be just tormenting one another and breaking everybody's spirit, shit posting
Mm-hmm.
online, those people that play something about an ecosystem. So I think fifth generation warfare, think about like counterinsurgency online,
Mm-hmm.
just all the things all at once, like and that's
Yeah.
our reality. So it's not like a big conspiracy. I just think keep us tired, keep us engaged, and the proletariat can't rise up. So like I think just information, etc. I think we're all kind of fifth generation soldiers if you're online, or if you're an
Mm-hmm.
organizer on the ground. Like people are actually engaging, um, whether you're doing bail funds or direct actions at, I don't know, military fucking contractor sites. Just all those people, that is the new revolution, whether it's online or in person. And
Mm-hmm.
because like what else can you do, man? They got drones, they got fucking
Yeah.
F-16s.
Right. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have they can break into your phone like remotely. Like what are you supposed to fucking do?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
resist revolutions in your mind, like you got to resist in any way you can. So in the meantime, my advice is just like, let's have a discussion about it, and do not get attached to these politicians. These people suck. Like
Yeah.
they're obviously fucking. Go watch Veep. It's very cathartic.
Especially these days.
Um,
It's wild how much
uh,
they predicted. Yeah.
yeah, it's like The Simpsons too. It's like The Simpsons didn't predict
Yeah.
this, but yeah, if this ends up being a vote in like the Senate for the final, because the electoral college somehow ties.
Yeah. I don't know. I was on the track to thinking that if Biden stayed in, this probably would have been maybe the lowest voter turnout election in
Ever.
a long time. But I don't know, man. Like I think the libs have got their heroin.
Yeah.
There's enough of people who were jaded before, but this, just the change, just the optic change from Biden is enough for them to be a little bit re-energized. And they still have plenty of time to fuck it up, but I think, I mean, the Republicans just they dug themselves. I mean, the weird thing is real. Like they dug themselves in the weird way too much because they thought they were running against, Joe Biden, and they don't have a good way of pulling out of it. They don't have they can't pivot to populism at this point. The whole thing is based on being really weird about social issues that like five people
Grievance.
want. Yeah, it's all grievance. It's 110% grievance. Um,
Yeah,
and
the Democrats need to. I think the Republican Party should be disbanded. Like I don't know. Like I don't know how you do that. I don't know how we get rid of them. Like we need to have them keep losing elections, I guess. because like there needs to be a real left-wing party, like a real working people's party. Like this big tent Democrat shit, like they piss on us. Like we're like, stop the genocide, please. Stop being bedwetters. Stop the genocide, please. Stop being bedwetters. Like, bro, I'm asking you. I'm not even asking you to stop funding the police anymore. I'm just asking you to stop funding the genocide. Like, can you just like stop it? And no, don't cut off their internet so I can't see it. Like, can you just stop sending the 500-pound bombs? And it's like, oh well, we got to prop up the economy because this is good for this. If the weapons manufacturers are moving product, the stocks do good. Stock market,
especially in Massachusetts.
Election year, yeah. See, exactly. Like, in Colorado, like all these like very important places, and it's very dark. It's very dark. It's like, can we maybe export something else? Like, can we export instead of mass death? Because that's really kind of why, like, in a dark, very dry way, like, well, you can't just stop selling weapons to like, and like this like weird thing where we're giving them money to then buy weapons from us, like from our companies. It's dude, it feels like money laundering is all I'm saying. It feels really weird. It feels like a weird way to put business into these American weapons manufacturers' hands. Like,
dude, American foreign policy, the fucking Walter White ain't got shit on American foreign policy when it comes to money laundering. That's man, Iran Contra,
all of it. There's so many things we don't even know about. And I argue they do things right in our face that are like really fucked up. It's not a direct 1-to-1 ratio, but like think about a cop car that doesn't have marking on it. Like they'll fucking buy vehicles that look like regular cars, so you can't find them, but they can be looking right at you.
The fucking ghost decals, right?
Or just no decals, just like the supervisor cars. The only way you can tell is if like what to look for, the hubs,
right.
The mags, or the lights. And it's just like, this is like, you guys, you'd be shady right in our faces too, like down to the local level, like, and just how contracts work on the local level with just in the power in councils. Like it's a whole mess, and it's okay, but this is why we got to drill down and do it. That's why we got to talk about it, and gotta weed out the bullshit. It was nice to talk a little national stuff with you.
Yeah, man, anytime. I will. I am definitely down to be the national correspondent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get too jazzed because I mean, I do, but I don't. I'm more like these fuckers, man. I just like, I've lost so much faith in that body and that all the federal establishment. It's just like the Supreme Court. What are you? The president is either a dictator or a scapegoat, and the Congress and Senate are just like, what can't you say about it? Like, the corrupt.
If I can just I can offer a tiny bit of optimism.
Sure, please.
This shit has a shelf life, right? As bad as it is now, as bad as it seems, as like, the Democrats keep fucking out, the Republicans keep getting crazier, capitalism keeps just hollowing out everything. It has a shelf life. It can't keep going on like this because there's going to be, they just run out of things to feed on,
Right.
And like feudalism had a shelf life. Mercantilism replaced feudalism. Mercantilism had a shelf life. Capitalism replaced that. And capitalism has enjoyed a few, the technology boom has definitely kept capitalism around long past its expiration date, and along with socialism, because socialists tend to fight for and get things done that help working people, which in turn gets absorbed by capitalism and keeps the system going a little bit longer. But at some point, we were talking before we went on to talk about Bitcoin. Like, they're running out of ways to generate these exponential profits. They're running out of things to exploit. There's a point where you're not going to be able to squeeze workers as much anymore. You already squeezed all the juice out. You can't get any more juice out of that. The natural resources are running out. The planet's fucking cracking. And typically what happens is when empire runs out of room to expand, when they run out of free real estate, it collapses in on itself. And all the ideas that are swirling around that are happening in reaction to a stagnant and dying and decaying world order, they get a chance to spring forth. In Germany, turns out the Nazis sprung forth. They
Yeah,
it doesn't always happen in the way you want.
Power abhors a vacuum. So.
Yes.
Bad things can, so this is also so I'm not one of those people like revolution now. I'm going to organize now and prepare for all contingencies.
Yes.
The thing is, we've been in this has been a class war the whole time. We need to all start acting accordingly. You need, like, my goal, hopefully, with my friends and family and community and with the show, like one of our goals and mine that I hold dear is I just want everybody to, can we all talk about how the sky is fucking blue and we're getting robbed? We are getting robbed and we're being beaten up for it. And maybe not me, but like, even if you're not the one getting beaten with the state sanctioned violence, then they traumatize you and make it because you have to watch it. Because they film it all now. So like, even I understand, like, there's the whole thing about then there works the other way. There's some people like that, and that's gross too. Like, and that like reinforces that weird racial hatred and all that stuff too. It's like, so it's either smut porn or it's a fucking snuff film, and like, it's traumatizing all around. So it's like, this stuff never stops. But you are right. I have to I know I just went negative again, but because I can't help it. But but you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, there has to be an end. and it will be an end. So we have to build our systems, and we have to find people we can rely on. And if you don't already, a lot of people already have this. You do just rethink your relationships and how we conflict resolve, and like focus on those skills if you don't have them, because that's what we need to be able to do when shit hits the fan. And shit keeps hitting the fan, and shit's always been hitting the fan. That it's just
shit. Yeah. But if you notice, it's hitting the fan with a little bit more frequency,
more regularity.
Yeah.
And it's
kind of like clockwork these days.
Yeah, and then the weather things get worse, and the economy every 3.5, 4 years is dipping hard, and the inflation's been bad, all that stuff. And I'm not an economics guy because I think it's all voodoo magic, but actually that's an insult to voodoo.
We should jab it up on the economics things. I wanted to.
I'll sit back and
yell
listen.
At people. I always wanted to like. All right, I wanted to yell at people online about economics because it all felt wrong, right? Like, I have the same feeling that you feel about, like, this just seems like bullshit. Like why does this make sense? And then, like, I started looking into it. I started reading economists. I started reading economic papers, and like, you think economics is bullshit? It's so much more bullshit than that. Like, and like, there are economists who I think do really, really good, interesting work, right?
Yeah.
And almost always, without fail, they're the ones who are like, let me look at what happens in real life and maybe make a model based off what happens in real life. But that's not the economics that most people are familiar with. The economics that most people are familiar with are people saying, I think this is how objectively economies work all the time, everywhere, without fail. There's one single rule, and this is how economics works. And if real life doesn't fit that, well, then real life is wrong.
Yeah, it's that's a different episode. So
Yeah.
I think on that note,
Little
so
teaser.
it was good to talk some federal level election stuff, and let's hope it's not Ben Shapiro, just for a morality stance, because it
Yeah.
is kind of disheartening seeing some people get some hope, and even though I disagree with that hope, like people that were like standing on business about Joe Biden being Genocide Joe, like turning blind faith to Kamala, coconut pilled. That shit's weird. That's weird behavior. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's some Trump. That's some MAGA shit. Like that's weird. They're tools. They're politicians, and I think now's the time to push and push and push and make demands of our elected officials. Because if they want our vote, if they want to win, they want to put Trump away. You also got to do X, Y, and Z. Don't, dude. This is the best time to negotiate. We have the leverage. For once, we have the fucking leverage. And then worst case scenario, we end up with Kamala and I don't know, this Waltz guy.
Walls or
Worst case scenario,
Bashir,
that's our if we set that as our basement, but we gotta push and push and push. We gotta not let her get off the hook about a ceasefire on Palestine. Not let her off the hook. When it comes to public education, not let her off the hook. Like we need a pandemic response team again. Like what the fuck? Like this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like we gotta. Like I'm not doing another. I mean, we're still in this pandemic. That's the other thing. It's like, yo, this is still happening. It's morphing.
It's still happening.
And it's doing weird. Like we've had 2 waves in the summer. It's like, anyways. It's like there's a whole bunch of things we have the leverage, people. So like anytime you talk to a canvasser, anytime somebody calls you, like we should be organizing our communities, but let's try. I don't know.
Let's try. And maybe the Democrats for once in their I thought them replacing Biden was like, oh shit, they actually made the smart political choice.
I think they were. I mean, some people think there was a big plan. I don't know. That's again, I don't want to get into hypotheticals until there's actual quotes, but I don't know. They listened. People put technically for once. It was, but it was typical Democrats. It's half.
Right.
It's after a primary.
Right.
Would have been nice.
Right. It's after the primary, but they listen, and maybe they'll listen about there's energy out there. Yeah, there's energy out there. Don't squander the energy for no good reason. We're not asking for the world here. We're asking for you to make a smart political choice for once.
Like stop arming a genocide. I don't
okay, that's a smart moral choice. That's like, too advanced for them. We have to work our way up to that.
That's slam dunk bullshit. Like 65% of the country agrees with that. There's nothing we agree on like that. There's absolutely nothing.
But I mean that involves having like an actual moral center, a conscious. Like there's the baby steps.
Well, maybe one of these age groups will do the funniest thing to Netanyahu. That would send some real turmoil, and then I would kind of be in God's hands at that point. I'm sorry, I'm a fucking chaos agent. I shouldn't be wishing that on the world. Oh my God, he just needs to not be in power anymore, amongst other people. The Likud, for example, and our, most of our center to right wing in our country. Like, yo, how come has our government has done nothing about January 6th Congress members? Like, what the fuck?
Like we are in Weimar, Germany, because we're in Weimar, Germany, and this is the shit. Like they don't like the fascists, but they also don't want to piss off the fascists, because if the shit hits the fan, they'd rather the fascists be in charge than the socialists. They'd rather have the guys that will protect their shit over the guys who might take their shit and do something good and moral with it.
Well, we're at a precipice, so keep pushing, keep weeding out the bullshit. And as always, you can find this article that Akil wrote for inthesetimes.com. Correct? That's the website.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Akil also has his Substack, where Akil is on one. You can find these linked in the show notes, and you can always go to our website, www.theweedout.com, or go to our social media. Feel free to follow us, hit us up, DMs. We're more than happy to answer any questions if there's something you want to hear about or something you thought we missed. Always happy to hear from you. Akil, do you want to say anything, last words before we log off?
You know what? Simple. Solidarity forever. Everybody, look out for each other.
Exactly. And everybody keep weeding out the bullshit.